I'm sure you're seeing this little plant come up just about everywhere at this time of year. This is purple dead nettle, and it is one of the absolute best free medicinal herbs that you can harvest straight out of your backyard. In this video, I'll be showing you 3 ways that you can utilize purple dead nettle to strengthen, calm, and nourish your body. Since I wasn't utilizing my herbs immediately, I laid them out to dry on a thin cotton t-shirt for a few days so that I could utilize them in the way that I wanted to do so. But you can use them straight out of the ground. If you do use them straight out of the ground, you don't have to dry them, but I just want you to pay attention to the way it sounds. That'll be a key indicator of whether it's fully dry or not. By the way, my name is Bree. Thank you for clicking on this video. If you're interested in learning different ways that you can grow your own food and herbs and how to use the food and herbs you grew to make different skincare preparations, herbal medicine, and different types of recipes, make sure you click the subscribe button and like this video to stay connected. Before we get into the preparations, let's just talk a little bit about what dead nettle is and its medicinal benefits. So dead nettle is a mint family herb. Dead nettle is not to be confused with stinging nettle, which differ in their family type and also the fact that dead nettle does not sting. Hence, it's called dead nettle instead of stinging nettle, but they have a lot of similar properties. Dead nettle is an amazing anti-inflammatory herb, which can be used to ease the pain associated with bug bites, stings, rheumatism, allergy symptoms. The fact that this herb comes up early in the spring is one of the many demonstrations of the infinite intelligence of Mother Nature. This herb is amazing for allergy season. A lot of people have seasonal allergy issues during the spring as everything is starting to come back up. Dead nettle is also a diuretic, which means that it helps to flush excess fluids from the body, particularly through the kidneys. It has antihistamine properties similar to stinging nettle, which again is amazing for allergy season. It just shows the intelligence of nature. And it is a super duper nutrient dense herb. This has something to do with the fact that this is a wild herb versus a cultivated herb. Cultivated herbs are the things that we typically eat, and they throughout thousands of years have been altered to be the best and the biggest and the tastiest. So they may not be as nutrient dense as those herbs and plants that have been left completely wild, like dead nettle. So it's very high in vitamin C, iron, fiber. It's an overall very good herb to help mineralize and nourish the body. The medicinal properties of dead nettle influence the way that I'm going to show you guys different ways that you can use them. So let's just get into it. So this is my dead nettle after 3 days. It's not completely dry yet, so I'll have to wait a little later in the week to show you guys some of the other preparations because they require them to be completely dry. But I normally allow my herbs to sit for a week before I use them, but just to show you the difference in sound. See how that has like a bit of a papery sound to it? Once the complete thing sounds like that, you'll know it's dry. So I'm just going to take a little bit to do our first preparation. So our very first dead nettle preparation is going to be herbal ice cubes. So I forgot to mention before, but dead nettle is also an astringent, meaning that it helps to tighten the tissues. So it's a really good herb for staunching bleeding, and it can also be used to help tighten your pores. So these herbal ice cubes are a great way to do some skincare, and also it makes it really, really easy to incorporate dead nettle into your other beverages, because once you make the ice cubes, you'll be able to just pop it into whatever else you're already drinking. So I'm just going to take this bit. I don't really have any measurements, but just know that the more dead nettle you put in, the stronger the ice cubes will be. I'm just going to use about half this ice tray, maybe like 2 or 3 cups of water. And yeah, we're gonna make our ice cubes. So all I'm gonna do now is take some spring water. I highly recommend using either spring water or distilled water. Do not use tap water unless you have a filter on your tap, because there's all types of stuff in the tap water. Ultimately, that's up to you. I'm just gonna take about 2 cups of spring water and bring it to a boil. Now that my 2 cups of spring water is boiling, I'm just going to add the dead nettle directly to it. I'm going to put a top on this and let it simmer for about 5 minutes. So ultimately, the color of the water is going to change just as it would for any other tea. I'm actually going to turn this down a little bit, just so that it doesn't, kill off any nutrients from being too hot. But Just put a top on. All right, so this is what we have after 5 minutes. You see the color has changed. So I'm just going to take a strainer and pour this into my ice tray. So I got my strainer and I'm just going to pour the hot water in the ice tray. This smells really, really grassy. Like, it has a very green smell to it. Maybe I did do a full ice tray. I did. To lean it so that it's evenly distributed. And put this in my freezer. Carefully put this in my freezer. So the dead nettle that's left in my pot, I always go and pour this, all my herbs, like after I make my teas and stuff, I just put them back outside, give it back to the earth. The earth gave it to you, so return it to the earth. That's what I recommend everybody do with any type of herb that you've utilized and you know you've made your use of it already. Just give it back to the earth instead of throwing it away. So I'm gonna go give these to the tree in my front yard. So our next dead nettle prep is going to be a sweet iced tea. Tea is always the easiest way to incorporate herbs into you internally. Although there are some other ways that you can incorporate dead nettle into your diet, which I will mention at the end in the honorable mention section. So I'm going to prep the tea a little bit differently than we just did for the ice cubes, just to show you a different way of utilizing loose herbs. By the way, the entire part of this plant is edible, from the flowers to the stem. Like, you don't have to worry about, oh, I can't use this part, the whole thing. So I'm going to, again, put 2 cups of spring water on the stove, bring it to a boil. But instead of adding the herbs to the pot, I'm going to add them to my jar. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. Put these in a jar. And what I'm going to do is pour my boiling water over this and put a lid on it and allow it to steep. All right, so my water is boiled. It's no longer bubbling. So I'm just going to pour it over my herbs. And I'm actually going to add in my sweetener right now while it's hot so it can melt. So I am going to use some raw local honey. You can use agave, you can use maple syrup, you can use date syrup. One of my classmates in my herbal apprenticeship added an actual date to her tea to sweeten it. That's something I've never heard of before, but it sounds interesting. So it's up to you. I'm just gonna add that in and stir it up very well so it can melt. And then I'm just gonna refrigerate this until it's cool so it can actually be iced tea. So you can add like different fruits to your tea to just add a little razzle dazzle. Like put some strawberries in here, put some blueberries in here, like while it's hot right now, so it could like infuse with the tea as it sits. That'll help add some extra medicinal properties. You know, fruit is very high in vitamin C. And with this herb being a herb that's high in vitamin C and also has antihistamine properties, those things together would be amazing for allergy season. So I'll do a little taste test once it's cooled off to give y'all some suggestions on what fruits I feel like will go good with it, because it smells grassy, so I know it tastes grassy as well. And the last time I actually made a tea with this, it did kind of taste like just green. It tastes like the color green, even though green doesn't have a color. But when you do this method, always infuse your tea with a lid on it, period, actually, to keep the volatile oils in. A lot of the times the oils, the medicinal properties are in the oils and they get dissipated with the steam. So if you keep it in there, it'll condense and then it'll still be water versus it being steam and leaving the jar. So always infuse your teas with a lid. So I'm gonna let this cool off and we'll come back later to do a little taste test. So the tea is nice and cool. Let's see what it tastes like so I can give y'all some flavor ideas, inspiration. Normally you would strain this, but I'm not gonna drink the whole thing right now. I'm just taste testing. So it's pleasant on its own. It tastes fresh and green. I could taste colors. I taste in colors. It tastes like green and purple, and it is green and purple. It's crazy, but I feel like this will taste really good with some blueberries. So you can add fresh or frozen blueberries in when it's still hot, when you add your sweetener in. It feels really good to my body going down too. Maybe some blackberries too. I feel like gentler fruits will really work well with this if you want to do a fruit infused tea. But yeah, dead nettle is really good for inflammation. So stuffy nose, rheumatism, inflamed joints, inflamed muscles. It'll help calm all of that down. It's a diuretic, so if you have excess fluids on your body, it will help to flush those fluids. And again, it's super nutrient dense, so this would be amazing for just overall nourishing and mineralizing the body. So our last dead nettle prep actually requires the herb to be 100% dry. So I'm going to wait about 2 more days to let it dry out some more before we come back and do the last preparation, because certain preparations, if you add any water to it, it's gonna start molding, it's gonna start adding bacteria, and that's not what we want. So I'll double back with the last one in a couple more days. All right, so a few days later, let's do a sound test. So it sounds papery, so we're good to go. Ideally, you could stick the whole thing in here. I'm probably gonna take the stems off just because I want to, but I'm just going to take this, and for our third preparation, I'm going to put everything in this clear jar. So our third and final dead nettle prep is going to be an infused body oil. So as I mentioned before, dead nettle has anti-inflammatory properties that is very useful for those who suffer from rheumatism, inflamed joints, inflamed muscles, anything like that. So infusing this herb into a body oil will allow you to have a direct point of contact, because you could just rub the body oil on the inflamed area and it'll provide you some temporary relief. So I'm just going to use some pure olive oil that I got from the grocery store. You could use almond oil, you could use avocado oil. I would recommend just like a looser viscosity type of oil. Like, I guess you could use castor oil, but that's not really, it doesn't smooth onto your skin easily. It doesn't glide on as easy. So all I'm going to do is, so I took about half a jar's worth of herbs. I took the leaves and everything off. And I'm just going to fill this jar up with olive oil. So whenever you're infusing herbs into oil, especially like freshly harvested herbs, like I was saying before, you have to make sure it's dry, because if not, it will invite mold in. And you don't want that. So one thing I will say, one of my classmates in my herbal apprenticeship, she said that she infused some fresh herbs and she just put a coffee filter on top instead of a top, so that the water could come to the top and evaporate off, and she didn't have any mold. So if you want to try that, go crazy. Just do it in small batches in case you do get mold, so you don't have a whole bunch of herbs going to waste, a whole bunch of oil going to waste. But you just want to make sure that your herbs are completely covered in oil, and put a top on it. Honestly, I might leave my top off for a couple days. I normally let my herbs sit for a week before they've been too dry before I use them. It's only been about 5 days, so I'm just a little weary, just a little bit. So I might leave the top off for a couple of days, but you're just gonna leave the top, put the top on, shake it up, and let it sit for at least 4 weeks. So the longer it sits, the more potent it will be. And yeah, just pour it, strain it off into like a dropper bottle or any type of oil bottle that allows you to easily apply it to your skin, and use it as necessary for your inflammatory situations. Also, make sure you label it so you know what it is. So when it comes to your labels, you want to put the herb that you used, the oil that it's in, and the date that you started it. So that way you know, okay, in 4 weeks I need to strain this. You can let it sit longer, but minimum of 4 weeks. You also want to use glass. Do not use plastic. Use glass to infuse. So today is May 1st. So this is my label, dead nettle and olive. And I'm just gonna stick it on my jar. And that's it. Since I mentioned it, I'm just going to show you guys how I'm going to let this sit for a couple of days. So I'm taking a cheesecloth and I'm just going to put it on top of my jar. I'm doubling it for a little extra razzle dazzle or whatever. This is not necessary. This is just for me because, like I said, I normally let my herbs sit a little longer to dry before using them. So I'm just going to put it on top like this and put a rubber band on it. And this is how I'm going to let mine sit. Honestly, I'm going to leave the top off the whole time and we're going to see what happens. But yeah, that's it. So for our honorable mentions on different ways to utilize dead nettle. So the first one is a poultice. So to do a fresh poultice, you can literally pull it out the ground, chew it up a little bit so that the moisture and the essence, the inner constituents of the plant come out. And then you would just take the plant from off of your mouth, your tongue, place it on bug bites, cuts, stings, whatever it is, and wrap a cloth, thin cloth or cotton rag around it, and just allow the fresh plant to be in contact with whatever area of your skin has been injured. Again, it's anti-inflammatory, it's astringent, it can help staunch bleeding, and this make it a really, really good herb for, like, if you have children or a little brother, little sister, whatever, and they're outside playing a lot and they cut their leg or something like that. It's everywhere, so you literally could just take some and, you know, make a poultice with it. If you were to dry your herbs and make a poultice, you would just add a little bit of boiling water to rehydrate them, and then again apply it directly to the affected area and wrap a cotton or cotton gauze, cotton cloth, thin t-shirt, something like that around it, just to keep it in place and allow those herbs to directly come into contact with your skin. And then you would just change the poultice out every couple of hours. Also, when it comes to consuming it orally, fresh dead nettle can be incorporated into your salads. It could be incorporated into soups. It could be incorporated into stews. You could put it in your smoothies. You can do anything with it that you would do with a salad green. So chop it up really finely, add it to your salad. You could saute it. You can steam it. Like, fresh or cooked, it works like a salad green basically. So if you're not really into drinking teas and stuff like that, you could try it like that, or put some in your smoothie, or again, like we talked about earlier, just throw ice cube in whatever you already eating or drinking. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like it and let me know some ways that you guys use dead nettle while it's outside.